Alright everyone, today I wanted to share with you guys some tips and things to do to prepare for a brand new series of events that we are getting starting on Friday. Now these events are going to be for summoning fragments for a brand new legendary champion coming to the game, Krila Witcharm. Now I talk about the details of this new champion in the last video on the channel, so if you want more information specifically about that, feel free to check it out. But today I wanted to really jump into what these series of events is going to look like and what you can do to prepare for them. Now we've been given some information here from the Diamond explaining that these new events are actually going to function very similar to how we do fusions. It'll be like our fusions. You'll be able to earn fragments in series of events and tournaments. The difference is that in fusions, you're fighting for needed champions as a reward, and here the goal will be fragments. So specifically that part right there where it says in a series of events and tournaments. Just like for fusions, they end up releasing a whole bunch of events and tournaments that are going to be coming over the several weeks where the rewards have specific champions that you need for the actual fusion itself. Well, it seems like the way that this fragment summoning event is going to work is basically the same as fusion, except now instead of getting the specific champions that you need to fuse, you are just going to actually get the summoning fragments themselves. And of course, once you end up getting 100, you'll be able to summon the new legendary. Now, also importantly, the Diamond posted, as far as I know, you'll be able to earn more than 100 fragments per event. Thus, even if you miss one of the events, you'll be able to earn the needed fragments in the rest of the events. As for your question about 90 fragments by the end of the event, no info yet. So hopefully we'll be able to get something like 110 to 120 of these fragments so that if you do end up missing one specific event objective, it's not going to completely ruin the entire event for you. And the stakes are even higher for these summoning events because with fusion, even if you don't actually completely fuse the fusion champion itself, you still end up keeping all the other champions. In some cases, they're obviously really good. Some cases, they're not as good. But with this fragment summoning event, if you end up at 99 out of 100 of the fragments, that's it. You get absolutely nothing out of it unless they somehow in the future introduce another way to get that last summoning fragment. So it's very important for this event specifically and for these series of events that you prepare even more so than you were for the fusions because the stakes are higher when it comes to possibly wasting your resources. Now, with that being said, let's jump into a list of the events that we could end up seeing. Now, they've mentioned it's going to be very similar to Fusion. I'm hoping that they're going to release a calendar just like they do for the Fusions that actually has a list of the events and tournaments and what dates they are going to run. But here is a list of the events that we have seen as fair game running when we have a fusion. We have the Champion Training event, the Dungeon Divers event, the Artifact Enhancement event, and the Summon Rush event. And now here is a list of all the various tournaments that are fair game that we've had in the fusions. That is Champion Training tournaments, Ice Golem tournaments, Dragon tournaments, Fire Knight tournaments, Spider, Arena Onslaught, and Champion Chase. So that is the full list right there. Now, there are a couple of patterns that are really important that we have seen across the various fusion events that Plarium has followed, and all the different fusion events that they've had have followed these patterns with what type of events and tournaments they tend to run. So I will say right here, very importantly, is we've seen a trend of all of the fusions starting off with a very large champion training event or tournament, but more specifically, it's lately been events. So this is like 25 or 30,000 points, much bigger than even the one that we have going on right now. This usually starts right when the fusion events start, and it lasts for something like 2 weeks. Sometimes the fusion timer will last a little bit longer than the champion training event, but generally this is going to span across most of the other events and tournaments that are running. Now, on top of that, we've also seen at least one summoning event or tournament run alongside these fusions. So very important to be prepared for that because it's very likely that with this new summoning fragment event, we're also going to see at least one summoning event required, which means you're going to need to plan around getting those points somehow, whether it's through mystery shards or other shards. There's a very high possibility that if you cannot complete the summoning aspect of this series of events, you will not be able to summon the new legendary champion. Now, also something that we've seen is at least one artifact enhancement event running alongside it as well. We've got one going on right now, but I will mention this as a general tip as well, especially to those of you guys who are more limited on resources, is if you are limited, I would actually err more on the side of caution and maybe skip out some of the events that we have going on right now, especially like with silver. If you're limited on silver, even though we've got an artifact enhancement right now, if you want to get this new legendary champion, you want to make sure that you've got the silver saved up for the very, very high possibility that we're going to get another artifact enhancement coming up really soon. And in some cases, even Plarium has actually introduced several artifact enhancement and several summoning events for these fusions. So, you know, the more that you prepare, the higher likelihood it is that you're going to have the resources in order to complete all the events that you're going to need for this new legendary champion. Now, another theme is they usually have a series of lots of dungeon tournaments, kind of like this dragon tournament. We'll see it not just for dragon, of course, but we'll see it for ice golem, fire knight, and spider. So definitely make sure that you have your teams prepared for all of that, because it's very likely you're going to need to complete a lot of those as well. So very specifically, getting into the actual event breakdown, a couple of tips to do specifically for the events that we're very likely to actually see. For the champion training, this is not a bad time to start saving up your energy, and I would even say, I know it drives a lot of people crazy, including myself, honestly, to be super overcapped on energy like this. You absolutely do not need to take it to the extreme that I have, but, you know, if you are limited on resources and you really want to maximize the energy that you get over the next few days, we know that this is coming on Friday, so we have a couple more days to prepare. If you want to skip out on some of the normal stuff that you do every day to give yourself a bit of a head start so that you have more resources for the series of events, you know, it's a little bit of a gamble, but I'd say for a lot of people, especially if you don't have a ton of resources, it might end up being a gamble worth taking. So definitely consider doing that. Also, if you have any double experience boosts that are available just anywhere in your game, whether they're in your missions, whether they are in your actual objectives for the campaign, whether they're in your faction wars objectives, wherever they are, even if they're in your mailbox, they usually stay there for 99 days. Not a bad idea to have a couple of those saved up, because with the giant champion training event that we're very likely to see, you're probably going to have to do a lot of farming for that, and you're obviously going to want to get as much experience as possible, also to help complete the event as well, because it's going to be based off of the amount of levels that you get for your champions. So that's another general tip right there for champion training. Now let's get into the summoning event, because this is a big one, and as we've seen through the trend of a lot of these fusion events, there's going to probably be at least one summoning related event, whether it's a summon rush or a champion chase tournament. I would make sure that you have the plans in order to get the points. That doesn't necessarily mean you have to have the ancient shards, the void shards, or the sacred shards specifically. If that means that you have a bunch of mystery shards, that's another way to get points. But either way, you want to have some way in order to get whatever points you need in order to get those summoning fragments. So now is not a bad time to start preparing, stocking up, buying out all the additional mystery shards from the market that you can see. If you haven't been doing that already, 5,000 silver is a great price for those. You know, just do what you have to do so that you don't find yourself caught off guard when the summoning event actually drops. So that's something else. Now, hopefully we'll also see some additional summoning events run alongside this, and we've lately seen with a lot of the fusions is they've actually been doing a lot of 10x and even sometimes 2x summoning events running alongside the fusion events. So definitely keep an eye out, especially on this eye icon, in case we see one of those drop with these as well. And the last thing that I want to talk about is the artifact enhancement event. We've generally seen at least one of these, sometimes two of them drop during these big fusion calendars that they have. I would definitely make sure to have silver saved up. Like I said earlier, if you guys are strapped on silver, you don't really have a lot, I would lean more towards skipping out on this one, making sure that you've got the silver saved up for the one that's specifically going to be for the Fragment event. 10 million is generally like a decent number to aim for. If you want to be a bit more careful, you could go for 15 to 20. I would say any less than 10 million and you're really stretching it on not being able to actually end up completing this event. Also, not a bad idea to take the time right now before these events start up, if you have some downtime in game, to just kind of figure out what artifacts you're going to want to be working on, what champions you're going to be using for all these events, and just kind of do all that general downtime type stuff right now while we have the time to do it, because you're probably going to be pretty busy when all these events drop. So anyway, this was just a general list right here. I hope that you guys enjoyed, and if these tips and information helped out, definitely consider subscribing to the channel. Feel free to leave a quick like as well, and more raid videos should be popping up on the screen right about now. Feel free to check them out, but if not, until next time, have a fantastic day, everyone. Take care, and until next time, this is Salt of the Salty Guild, signing out.